In this video we will go ahead and use some more validators, because right now our booking seats, which is that number here, is only checking if we have a value, but not if the value is in a specific range. So how can we use multiple validators? It's pretty simple. We go ahead and call validators.compose. So we compose many together, and inside here we got an array. And the first one is validators.required, like the one we had before. So we have required validators.min, so at least 1, and validators.max 254, right? So exactly like the same values that we have also used in ASP.NET Core. So we got required, min, and max. I guess you can see in which direction that points. Let's start the application, save first, and let's check what this did. Here we are now again. I can simply enter an email address I have registered already. And now I can search for a flight, go ahead and book a flight, and enter a number of seats in a range that is not valid. For example, 0. Oh, as you can see, number of seats is invalid. -100, number of seats is invalid. Completely removing, number of seats is invalid. 900, number of seats is invalid. And as you can see, as soon as I adjust the value, it automatically appears, and this is because of the data binding, which is taking place here instantly. When I just go ahead and do it like this, number of seats is invalid, or like 1000, number of seats is invalid. Well, number of seats is invalid is a general message. And you might want to help the user to fix the error by giving him a more specific message. So here we are again at Angular, validating form input. Let me scroll a little bit down. You can see validating input in template-driven forms. This is exactly what we have done so far, or what we are implementing right now. And you can see here that there are multiple conditions. So here's an input, right? And you can see it's bound to hero name, so a simple string. And then we have that ng-if when the name is invalid, for example, and then it goes below into another if tree, and you have name errors. If it's required, you show a message called name is required. And if the min length is not correct, you say name must be at least 4 characters long. And if the name is Bob, like forbidden name or whatever, name cannot be Bob, right? So here we're just talking about displaying different error messages. And you can see that nested if statements here really directly inside of Angular. Now let's switch back to our Angular project. Inside of the flight component, or book flight component here, we got our form. We will now create a getter for getting that number here. So scroll to the very bottom, create a getter, get number, and that one simply return this .form.controls.number, right? So it just takes the form and then gets the controls and then takes the number here. So we get that value. So a very, very simple getter, like you would write it down in C#2. So now in our HTML, we go ahead and here we get that div, right? Number invalid. We want to shorten it up now because we have our property or our getter. So we can simply use him, just number, right? And then invalid. You can use it like this right now. And then we go ahead and use number.dirty or number.touched. So I will explain that just in a second, but just for you, we call it this number here, and that one returns controls number. So it doesn't only return, well, a value like 1 or 2, it returns the object, and the object can be invalid, right? So just as it was before, but now we can write that shorter since we have that getter and don't really have to use that form control number invalid, form control number dirty, form control number touched, right? So this is where we use the getter to make it really shorter. So if the number is invalid and number is dirty or number is touched, as I said, I will get to that dirty and touched just in the next step. And then we want to show div number of seats is invalid. And we want to remove that, or we want to change that. Let's call it changing, right? So let's remove the content of that div. First of all, as I said, in that ng-if, we now create another ng-if to make this nested. So ng-if equals to, now let's write down the statement, number.errors. We got an error object. Let's check if we have it. And if we don't have it, that's, well, we don't need to show it at all, right? Because we're just caring about errors here. And we can check if it's required. And you can guess that this is the validator that we have used right here, required. So this is why we can also use min and max, because we have set it. So if the number has errors and has the required error, then we want to go ahead and say, for example, how many people do you want to book the flight for? So that we now show more detailed information. Let's go ahead and copy that 2 times, because we have 2 more. We got min and we got max. So again, if you take too much care about writing down everything, just instead listen and watch what I do, and later on copy it from the GitHub repository if this more appeals to you, right? So ngIf number errors min, we want to go ahead and adjust it and say you cannot book for less than 1 passenger, right? And exactly as you may already guessed, our planes do not have more than, for example, 200. Well, what a guess, right? 254 seats. Who would have guessed that this is like the byte size? Okay, let's save it and take a look again at the application. Let me log in real quick, yannick@dev.com. And there we go. Let's search a flight, let's book a flight, and we got 1. Amazing. Going down to 0, you cannot book for less than 1 passenger. Well, we can actually for sure fix that typo here. And again, 255, our planes do not have more than 254 seats. So you can see we now have information provided to our user, which really helps him to figure out the problem. Is my email address too long? Is my email address in the wrong format? Did I provide any email address? Same goes here for number of seats, for example. So you really want to take care about showing the correct information to the user to increase the usability of your application. Now you can not. That looks better. Great. Okay, so let's proceed here and talk about dirty and touched in the next video.